Hey, come here. You like pro wrestling? We got a little something for you. Two fans, 3,000 miles away. We each been watching for more than 30 years. Celebrate the art form, the action, the homoeroticism. We ain't rating matches. We ain't analyzing stories. We ain't experts. We just sit down, shut up, and mark out! Well, welcome everybody to another edition of Sit Down, Shut Up, and Mark Out. I'm Blade Daly, and I'm joined today by, well, just by me, really, and by you. By me and by you. And we are going to be talking today about AEW. We're going to be talking about the upcoming pay-per-view, All Out, which happens this Saturday. A very tight turn from All In. Gotta say, it's been really, really, really well done. Been a crazy week for me, but man, wrestling has been such a beautiful safe harbor for me. It's such a great escape, which at its very best, that's what pro wrestling is. It's this incredible escape where we get to watch like kind of a surreal version of reality play out without as much nuance as real life, but still, AEW manages to pack quite a bit of nuance in there. It's been super cool to see on Threads the people's posts in the UK who went to All In. Very, very cool. Last year, when AEW announced All In, it was kind of like, what the fuck? Because All Out was the next weekend. And then at All In, there's a bunch of drama around CM Punk and Jack Perry. CM Punk got fired the day before All Out. All Out felt a bit like an afterthought, and they ended up putting on a fantastic show. But man, it really took a toll on everybody kind of getting there. I can only imagine what it was like if you worked there. But for the fans, it was kind of a weary march to All Out. This year, they really planned this out well. 2 weeks between the shows. There was a weekend in between All In and All Out, and man, they have put one hell of a show together, but the thing they have put together, as well as anything has ever been put together in this business, is the blood feud to end all blood feuds. One of my all-time favorite feuds in the history of pro wrestling. Swerve and Hangman Page have captivated me in a way that I rarely am by wrestling. They're putting together something that really, truly makes me feel like a kid watching wrestling. Yesterday, I'm taping this on Thursday night. You'll be hearing it on Friday. Last night, watching Dynamite, I felt like a fucking kid. I felt like this adrenaline rush that I used to get from watching wrestling all the time. Wrestling gives me an adrenaline rush plenty of times, but this was unique. This was unique. So earlier in the day, AEW, very inauspiciously posts this video of Swerve and Prince Nana. And Swerve signed a contract extension with AEW and bought his childhood home, all thanks to Prince Nana, who helped him do it. They're best friends. Swerve talked about what a tough road he went through to get that house back, and that he was always going to do it. And immediately there was this outpouring. All of us were like, oh no. We knew that house was a fucking goner, and that made it even better. So come around to Dynamite. They show that like kind of a shorter version of that same clip that they had posted on YouTube. And once it was on the show, you knew it. And Swerve and Hangman were scheduled for the main event spot after the main event match to do a contract signing. Swerve comes out with Nana looking very nonplussed, but like, let's get this over with. Hangman's music hits. Hangman does not come out. They cut the music. Tony Schiavone says, sorry about that. Let's try again. They hit the music again. The Hangman is not there. And then on the Tron, you see Hangman Page. And for once, Hangman actually smiles. He is inside the house. He is inside the house. And all of us know something terrible is going to happen. And he says, essentially, did you think I would show up for a formality for something we both already know is going to happen? Absolutely not. Hangman then proceeds to cut this promo on Swerve, utterly burying Swerve, what he must have been like as a kid, what this house reminds him of. It's so interesting because we all were kind of joking about him burning this house down, but none of us really knew for sure. And as he's cutting this incredible promo, Hangman Page, when he is focused, man, there is like nobody better than this guy. Hangman continues to cut this amazing promo on Swerve, and finally, you see a gas can, and Hangman starts throwing gas all over the house. It ends with him finally talking about, you made the mistake of showing me something that you cared about. And you realize that's been the thing, is Swerve has been saying as a character this whole time that the only thing he cared about was the world title. And now that he had the world title, now that he's had it, he showed the world something else he cared about. So Hangman knew what he had to destroy. That was such a great part of the story. Okay. So Hangman is walking through. He's doing this whole thing with a selfie stick for like a very brief second. You catch a little glimpse of the selfie stick in the shot. So this guy like essentially filmed a lot of this by himself. Really incredible stuff. But he's walking through the house. He walks out of the house, and then he finally makes the reference that we all know is coming. Whose house? He had been saying ever since he's been back in July, he's said, I'm going to burn your world to the ground. He lights a match. He sits in a chair with a table set up next to him he has a glass of what I believe is whiskey or something. He lights this path of gasoline on fire that lights the table behind him on fire. And the entire house is engulfed in flames while Hangman sits in this chair and drinks his drink. One of the most iconic shots, certainly in the history of AEW, but really in the history of modern American pro wrestling. Absolutely fucking ungoddamn believable. Okay, when AEW started, the Elite, the Jacksons, Kenny, certainly, said that their goal was to make Hangman the main character of AEW, and I don't think you can dispute the fact that they did. Okay, that 2-year story with Kenny and Hangman was incredible. And really like one of the greatest stories in the history of pro wrestling. It brought long-term booking back in a way that, WWE certainly seized on with the Bloodline and other things. They brought back long-form storytelling to the wrestling space. Okay. Now, if you ask me, what are the best stories in the history of AEW? Some people will tell you CM Punk and MJF is the best. I just don't think I think that's absurd. Okay. And the reason why is they never finished that story. They told half of that story and it never became what it was supposed to become. I don't think it qualifies to even rank, quite honestly, because that story never finished. MJF came back and revealed himself as the devil at the conclusion of All Out, and CM Punk immediately went and had a nuclear fucking public meltdown at the scrum that same night, and they never interacted again. Okay, so I just don't think MJF and CM Punk qualifies. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. That said, for me, it would be Kenny and Hangman, Tony Storm and Mariah May, and Swerve and Hangman. And Swerve and Hangman has been told masterfully. These guys are both masters of storytelling and bringing emotion out of us. Last year at this time, Swerve showed up and gave Hangman the dressing down of a lifetime. He told him, you're complacent. You act like you don't even want this spot, and all I want is your spot. And I will do anything. And everything he proceeds to do after that was to fuck with Hangman, to disorient Hangman. He said later it wasn't personal. For Swerve, that was the end. For Hangman, that was just the beginning. Okay? So, now, in my opinion, and I want to know what you guys think. So if you're hearing this, whether you agree with me, whether you disagree with me, I want you to go over to the post about this episode on our threads or Instagram or on YouTube and tell me if you agree with this. I think now these two have mated. There are two main characters in AEW, and it is Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland. Here's the thing I think some people are really missing. There isn't a babyface or a heel in this story. Okay? Both men have understandable motivations. Okay? Swerve, in his bid to get to the top, probably did the most heelish thing by breaking into Hangman's house and kind of ominously talking to his kid and eventually giving the kid a t-shirt, but not doing anything to the kid. You violated the sanctity of a man's home. Okay, that is probably the most heelish thing. Okay, but the crowd had already decided about Swerve. We loved Swerve. It was the most fucked up thing, but it was like fucked up in a pro wrestling awesome way. And that drove Hangman to madness. And as the crowd started cheering for Swerve, Hangman said, fuck you to the crowd. I don't need you. I'm not going to do things based off of you and what you think is right, people who turned on me, who turned their fucking back on me as I tried to protect my family. And Hangman just could not get an advantage over Swerve, no matter what he did, because to Swerve it was all business, and Hangman was blinded by the rage and animosity, and he no longer cared about the title. He no longer cared about the success of the wrestling business. All he cared about was destroying Swerve, and it led him astray. After he came back, he lost a bunch of matches. He's just been a mess. He's been an utter mess. And last week on Dynamite, when Swerve said to him, man, look at you. You're acting like a fucking child. You know, all I did to just take from you what I wanted. And once that was done, it was over for me. You're destroying your career. And for what? And finally, as I said before, Hangman says, you showed me something you cared about. And that was all he needed. And now these two, it hasn't been announced on television yet, but it will be Friday. So the day you're listening to this, hopefully, it's been announced that this is now going to be a lights out cage match. The winner or loser is not official. It is not sanctioned by AEW. These men are going to do some insane fucking shit. As I understand it, this will be the main event of All Out. I don't know how anybody's going to follow this. Again, last night, Hangman sitting in front of the house with the whiskey, drinking. I posted about it all last night. I posted about it all day today. People were still posting about it all day today. People were making drawings of Hangman. People made it into an album cover. My God, this was one of those moments where you know they hit a grand fucking slam. And that leads us into the discussion about All Out. Okay, so if they didn't sell you a pay-per-view yesterday, I'm not sure there's anything they could have done. I totally get it. For those of you who don't have the money to buy it, I bought it. I have to. I buy every AEW pay-per-view. I've never missed one, and I'm not starting now. But if I was even on the fence last night, they sold it to me. Swerve and Hangman is going to be absolutely bonkers. Okay, so let's start with that. This is a preview and prediction show. I'm going to give you my picks and tell you why. I want to know what your picks are. Again, go to the episode post and tell me who are your picks to win at All Out. I want to know what you think. Do you disagree with me? Do you have a different version of what you think is going to happen? Let me know. I love interacting with you guys. I just want to say, part of doing this show that is so much fun is how much you all and your fucking creativity and your genius ways of seeing things that I totally miss have changed the way I'm seeing things. I love it. I love it. It's so much fun. So let's start with presumably the main event. Swerve and Hangman in a lights out cage match. I think it's pretty telling that they made this, that there's no, that this is not an official match. I think it's pretty telling. My theory, Swerve is now the one who's unhinged and completely emotional and beside himself. And Hangman is going to take him apart in Chicago at All Out this weekend. I think Hangman Page is going to beat Swerve in the cage match. They are going to push each other to go to crazier heights than they've ever been before, which, Jesus Christ, that almost terrifies me to think of. I have no fucking idea how they're going to do that, but they're going to try. Hangman Page beats Swerve. However, because it doesn't count in the record book, okay, Danielson is going to defend against Jack Perry, and then the winner of that match, who I believe will be Danielson, will defend against Darby Allin at Grand Slam in New York at the end of September. I believe Danielson beats Jack Perry. Danielson will beat Darby Allin. And somehow Swerve is going to become the number one contender because this match will not reflect on his record. He will win the world title back from Bryan Danielson at Wrestle Dream in Tacoma. And Hangman will be the guy who says, wait a minute, I fucking beat you fair and square in that lights out cage match. And then you get Swerve and Hangman in a legit world title feud that culminates in Hangman eventually beating Swerve for that world title. I don't think he needs to beat him right away, but I do think that's where this is going. And these two men, you have your main characters in AEW fighting over the top prize, and you have this fight forever situation where you really can't go wrong with Swerve and Hangman. These guys, this is not just pro wrestling where it's like, hey, it's still making money, let's keep doing it till the fans don't want it anymore. These guys are artists. Swerve and Hangman are violent artists that are going to continue to tease out and tell a great story. I cannot wait to see where this goes, but I do believe Hangman Page will beat Swerve at this weekend at All Out, and that will lead to somehow Swerve becoming the number one contender, fighting Danielson at Wrestle Dream, and becoming the world champion once again, with Page somehow challenging him thereafter. And I think Hangman Page will eventually beat Swerve for the world title. Moving on. Okay, that's a lot to unpack, but man, I could talk. This whole episode could just be about that feud. So moving on. Yeah, Bryan Danielson defending against the scapegoat, Jack Perry, who Jon Moxley may have given a new moniker to, the Sweet Goat. Me and Reign of Toads yesterday in Neon Ghost were talking about, Jon Moxley confronted the Elite yesterday, and Moxley says to Perry, I don't care what anybody says, you're a sweet kid. Very telling, okay? Because Moxley, as we will recall, is now basically got a female bodyguard, Marina Shafir, and is not walking with the Blackpool Combat Club. And it's very interesting to me that he called Jack Perry a sweet kid when Jack Perry attacked Bryan Danielson, his stablemate in the Blackpool Combat Club, last week, the week before. I think there's some foreshadowing in that. But I made the joke on Threads that the scapegoat was now the Sweet Goat. Reign of Toads, who is endlessly thirsty for Jack Perry, agreed. And, the scapegoat, he's a sweetheart. What can we say? But I don't think he's going to be super sweet. I think he's going to be in full scapegoat mode in Chicago this weekend. It's going to be amazing to hear the reaction to him in Chicago this weekend as he fights Bryan Danielson. I do believe Bryan Danielson will be the first man to pin Jack Perry since he's been back, and he will retain the AEW world title. Danielson has been very clear that as soon as he drops this world title, that he is done as a full-time competitor, and I don't think it's happening this weekend. But I think it's going to be a great match. I know that they want Danielson to give Jack Perry a rub. I think Jack Perry is going to come very close to beating Bryan Danielson. And Danielson's goal will be to get Jack Perry over. My only qualm with this entire show is that you have a lot of champion versus champion matches. So you have the TNT champion challenging the world champion. which means one less belt that's not being defended, okay? The women's world title is also not being defended. As far as I know, the women's world title at the time of this taping is not scheduled to be defended. And then you have the trios champions who are challenging for other titles on this show. So a lot of champions challenging for other championships, which is kind of a bummer to me, just as somebody who wants to see all of these titles treated with some prestige. It's not a huge problem or anything. I'm very excited to see what Jack Perry does, but he's going to have a very active TNT title schedule after this. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this turns out, but I do believe Bryan Danielson will come out on top. Next, we got Mercedes Moné versus Hikaru Shida for the TBS title. These two had a badass exchange on Dynamite. Shida turned around the quip from Okada from the week before, where he taught Mercedes that bye bitch in Japanese is sayonara bitch. And Hikaru Shida said it to Mercedes in their segment last night. Camille will be banned from ringside. It is for the TBS title. And these two are just a fucking great combination of competitors. Mercedes is so settling into her vibe in AEW. Her and Camille are an incredible combination. Camille being banned from ringside, I immediately had the thought, and apparently so did some other people, Chrissy Chemistry and some others on Threads. Andrew OP brought it up as well, that if Camille's banned from ringside, do we think that Mercedes gets a second bodyguard? I think my thoughts are it's either going to be the Renegade Twins, because I know Mercedes has teased being involved with them, could somehow interfere, or we introduce Megan Bayne finally to the AEW audience. I think Mercedes, with a whole team of security, just adds to that CEO character. And these women, fucking badass women being her muscle, just adds to the aura of this entire thing. And so I think Camille being banned from ringside will give Shida an advantage early on in the match. But I think somebody, whether it's the Renegade Twins, whether it's just Robin Renegade, or it's Megan Bayne, Megasis, interfering and costing Shida the match, I do believe Mercedes walks out with that title still around her waist. But I think they're going to burn it down. Shida cut a fire fucking promo on Mercedes. Shida's promos are just getting better. You can see everybody in this division is being challenged to raise their game now that there is more focus on the women's division. You see Shida has massively upped her game promo-wise. Every time she's on my screen, I look forward to seeing it. This is always the way I've wanted to see Shida presented. It's not lost on me that the people who face Mercedes are all getting a big glow up. I think Mercedes has done a lot to make this women's division even stronger. The next match, Will Ospreay defends the international title against Pac. Oh my God. We have a trios match on Dynamite. It's the conglomeration, Orange Cassidy and Kyle O'Reilly with Will Ospreay versus Pac, Claudio, and Wheeler Yuta. The very just seconds of time that Pac and Ospreay were in the ring together. This is going to be a low-key match of the year contender. It may not have the emotional build of some of the other match of the year contenders, but my God, these two, you do not get two guys more crisp and fluid in the ring than Will Ospreay and Pac. I think Will Ospreay is absolutely retaining here. I hate seeing Pac take these high-profile losses, but he is the trios champion with Claudio and Yuta. He has other things to do. It's not like he's going to lose and get downgraded. I do believe Ospreay wins. He needs a decent reign with the international title. I look forward to seeing this match. It's one of the ones I'm really, really looking forward to. Can't wait to see where he goes after this or who he feuds with after this. I'm very excited for Pac as well. Just starting to get more of these premier singles featured matches like he had with Okada at Double or Nothing. I believe it was Double or Nothing, or maybe it was Dynasty. I think it was actually Dynasty. where he challenged Okada for the Continental title and had a fucking beautiful match with him. Can't wait to see this match. It's going to be incredible. I think Billy Goat is going to take this one, and it's going to be incredible. We got a Chicago street fight after this. And by the way, I do not know the match order. God only knows if they're going to add more matches. Tony Khan is a sicko. He hasn't announced anything for the pre-show. I have no idea what is going to happen on the pre-show or if more matches are going to get added to the main card. These are the matches that are official as of my official recording time of Thursday afternoon Pacific, okay? But we got a Chicago street fight with Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander. I'm really looking forward to this. This feud took a bit of a backseat during the All-In build, and I think these ladies are going to pour some heat back on. I'm predicting that Chris Statlander is going to reign supreme. Originally, this match was announced as being for the CMLL Women's World Championship, which Willow Nightingale currently holds. When they made it a Chicago street fight, they said that CMLL was not sanctioning this, so I no longer believe it is for that title, which makes me which increases my conviction that Chris Statlander is going to beat Willow. It being a Chicago street fight, you're going to see shenanigans from Stokely. It seems to me, maybe they're holding him back so that he can make a save at some point during the match. But I haven't seen Ishii on TV. He may be back in New Japan. As of now, the summer is winding down, and hot dog summer may be over, or Ishii may come out to assist Willow at some point in this match. I'm not sure, but if I were to guess, I think Statlander kind of needs this win. Willow has pretty decisively beaten her a few times now. Not like with a finisher. It's usually with a crafty pin somehow. But she has beaten her in tag matches and singles matches. I think Stat needs the win here just to keep some heat on these two. Really looking forward to it. MJF versus Danny Garcia. Holy balls. This match is going to be a blast. Dynamite starts off yesterday with Daniel Garcia coming out immediately, cutting the best promo I've ever heard him cut. I've noticed Daniel getting better and better on the mic for the last year and a half. I mean, really, look, I understand that Chris Jericho is he's not a lot of people's cup of tea right now. Honestly, the learning tree was fun for a minute, but it's kind of losing its luster to me as well. I think Chris Jericho, if he really wanted to preserve his star power and preserve his legacy, he should take some time away from TV for 3 or 4 months. But you cannot deny that Daniel Garcia found his mojo as an on-screen character through the Jericho Appreciation Society. He absolutely did. I won't hear it from anybody else who wants to disagree. I know it. I watched it happen. This dude found a groove. When the Jericho Appreciation Society dissolved, he has found his way as a babyface, and he's clearly in the Red Death zone now, and he's obviously re-signed. I just don't think they would give him all of this television and screen time if he hadn't. I'm very excited to see where he's going to go, and obviously MJF is committed to getting him to the next level. Garcia comes out. He cuts a pretty fucking ruthless promo. MJF interjects. He's in the stands in a white suit, drinking red wine, acting like a Long Island Bond villain. And Garcia goes in on MJF hard, really hard. Okay. He said, everything you say is lies. You don't love these fans like I do. MJF talks about how these fans are going to, they're going to betray you, Danny. They used to love me, and now look at him. He's getting all this heat on himself, and Garcia even goes, Max, you're so fake. I mean, even your hair isn't real. You took a trip to Turkey to get a hair transplant that didn't even work. My God. This is some savage shit. Absolutely savage. Okay? MJF eventually makes a pretty for MJF, I thought it was kind of lazy. Makes a pretty lazy crack about Daniel Garcia's mom. And, Daniel Garcia is saying he's going to end MJF's career. MJF is saying he's going to cripple Daniel Garcia and he'll be laying on his back and his mom can take care of him. And that won't be the first man that she's ever taken care of on his back and fully serviced. To me, it's like, yeah, of course, his mom has sex. Like, Daniel Garcia's mom isn't a virgin. It's not like anybody's ever implied Daniel Garcia was immaculately conceived that I'm aware of. But this is too much for Daniel. Keep his mom's name out of your mouth. So Danny takes off, beats up a ton of security on his way. But by the time he finally makes it to MJF breaks a bottle of wine over Garcia's head. Garcia's a bloody mess. And MJF says, I am going to do you a big favor. I am going to take you to the promised land, presumably like heaven, almost, at All Out. I'm going to end your career. Garcia had earlier said that he was going to end MJF's career. I do believe MJF is going to get pile driven from the second rope. And it's going to be a vicious, gory moment where we are all going to be going, oh my God, how do you survive this? At some point in this feud, I'm not sure if it's going to be this weekend. If they're going to tell a longer story with MJF and Daniel Garcia, I'm going to choose with my heart. And I'm going to say I think Daniel Garcia gets a big win here. I could easily see this one going the other way where they give MJF this win because the feud's going to continue and Garcia is eventually going to beat MJF. I'm going to choose with my heart. I think the only reason that MJF didn't end up in a full body cast after he took that Tiger Driver was because he immediately had to feud with Garcia. But I think MJF in a full body cast or in a wheelchair or in something comical and crazy is going to happen at some point. But I'm going to say I think Garcia is going to take this one from MJF. Whether the feud continues or not is I'm not entirely sure. But I'm picking Danny Garcia. I want to see Red Death get his big moment. I want to see Red Death beat a former AEW world champion, beat an undisputed main event guy. MJF, I got to say, since he's come back, he has been extremely unselfish. He has not monopolized the television. He doesn't have the entire company on his back anymore. And it has made such a difference in how much I enjoy MJF. I still think the misogyny of his character is kind of unnecessary. He's so clever and he's so good. He doesn't really need to do that shit. MJF has really, really helped boost Ospreay's profile. Ospreay, you could say, was on an undeniable trajectory. So Danny Garcia is more a measure of the power of MJF. I do think we'll see after this match, the reactions to Danny Garcia get a lot louder. And we will see the power of MJF to really build people up. Next, this match just kind of got thrown together. The Young Bucks are going to face Claudio, Castagnoli, and Wheeler Yuta. I don't mind that Claudio and Wheeler are challenging the Young Bucks for the titles, for the tag titles, but it does feel a bit thrown together. It does feel a little bit just kind of whatever-ish to me. And I would really like it if this had been a little more intentional. Again, Claudio and Wheeler being trios champions with Pac, who is challenging for another title as well. And them just kind of saying, hey, why don't you give us a tag title shot? And I think there's other teams you could have done this with. I would have loved to see a pay-per-view level Top Flight versus the Young Bucks match. I think the Young Bucks will win this match. There's just been absolutely no reason to indicate that Claudio and Yuta would have any reason to beat the Young Bucks and become the tag champs. I am a big Wheeler Yuta fan. Sometimes people are really harsh on Wheeler Yuta, and I just absolutely think that's bullshit. I think Wheeler's great. I think the actual in-ring quality will be good, but there's a real distinct lack of heat to this one that I think was avoidable. They could have built it up better, but whatever. It's one match that I, am looking forward to, but doesn't have the kind of gravitas to it that it could have. I do believe the Bucks will win. That's kind of it. That's kind of all I got for this one. There was also announced there's going to be a 4-way match for the Continental title. Last night, Kazuchika Okada and Kyle Fletcher had a fucking great match on Dynamite. How? You know, Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez have said for years they think Kazuchika Okada might be the greatest wrestler of all time. And look, I love Kazuchika Okada, okay? I love Kazuchika Okada. New Japan, Kazuchika Okada. That kind of stoic heel, stoic hero that he kind of took turns playing. How did this guy come to America and immediately absolutely understand how to be like not a Japanese guy wrestling in America, but like play an American heel absolutely pitch perfectly from the very jump? Okay? Kazuchika Okada is so entertaining. He's so amusing. He's a heel that everybody looks forward to seeing because he's so fucking amusing. He's so amusing. Him and Fletcher have an incredible match. Incredible match. Kyle Fletcher is looking like a no doubt top prospect. He is going to be, I mean, how do you keep the TNT title off this guy? How do you keep him away from the international title? How do you keep him away from the Continental title much longer? Kyle Fletcher is going to be one of the top 5 greatest wrestlers in the world in a couple years. In a couple years, he's already on his way. They have an incredible match. Okada makes Fletcher look incredible. Okada wins with a kick to the dick, Rainmaker, and puts Fletcher away. But man, what an incredible match. I never could have imagined Kazuchika Okada could be this good on American television this fast. I am a massive, massive mark for Shinsuke Nakamura. I always preferred Nakamura to Okada, to Tanahashi even. Much as I love those guys, Nakamura was my dude. But man, Okada is proving himself as one of the very greatest of all time. Nakamura has never, ever either been allowed to show this much talent, or he just isn't as talented as Okada. And I finally, as a Nakamura mark, have to just admit, Okada might just be better. Okay? But he is in a 4-way match to defend the Continental title. And his opponents are being determined on Collision this week. And boy, is this a group of possible competitors. I will tell you who I think the match will contain and who I believe will win. First up, Lance Archer and Mark Briscoe are wrestling on Collision to determine who will be in this match. I think Mark Briscoe is going to take it. Briscoe has just been an absolute revelation. He's one of my very favorite characters in wrestling right now. When I see Mark Briscoe on my screen, I get a little bit of a rush because his promos are so great. His matches are so great. Mark Briscoe is one of the best guys in the world right now. He really is. As much as I hoped he would have a great career, and I knew Tony Khan would take good care of him after the very, very tragic death of his brother Jay, Mark has earned his spot in every single way. Every chance he's given, he hits it out of the park. I believe he'll beat Lance Archer on Collision, and he'll be part of this 4-way match. So you got Kazuchika Okada, you got Mark Briscoe. The next match, Orange Cassidy versus the Bad Apple Brian Keith. I think Orange Cassidy's going to win this match. Then you have this interesting match where you have 2 guys from the conglomeration in this 4-way where they are both trying to win the gold. Cassidy has kind of shown some flashes of maybe being the outsider in the conglomeration. He doesn't always have that dorky energy of the rest of the group. And I kind of wonder if the sway of trying to win that gold is going to cause him to do something heelish. And maybe there's quite a few people who seem to believe Orange Cassidy might be the guy to turn heel in the conglomeration. I still think it's going to be Kyle O'Reilly. It's going to hurt so much when Kyle O'Reilly abandons his dorkiness because he just isn't winning matches and finally rejoins Roderick Strong, but I think it's eventually going to happen. But it could be Orange Cassidy. We'll see. Orange Cassidy moves merch. Kids love him. It's so hard to see him turning heel, but who knows? Very possibly. But the match, oh my God. Oh my fucking God. They were both involved in a four-way match last weekend on Rampage. Konosuke Takeshita, the Alpha, Konosuke Takeshita, and Beast Mordos, the Dark Daddy, are going to fight to see who will take that last spot. I do believe the Alpha has to win this match. Konosuke Takeshita has to beat Beast Mordos. I hate seeing the Dark Daddy lose, but losing to Takeshita, there is absolutely nothing to feel ashamed of. After Okada beat after Okada beat Kyle Fletcher yesterday, Takeshita came out and they teased just for a second Okada and Takeshita. I think that's where this is going ultimately. There's going to be a one-on-one Kazuchika Okada and Konosuke Takeshita matchup, and I think this could lead to Takeshita getting that first win over Kazuchika Okada and launching himself into the stratosphere. Whether it's like at Wrestle Dream and Takeshita beats him there and takes the Continental title, or Takeshita, maybe they fight at Wrestle Dream or Full Gear or something like that. Takeshita loses to Okada and then maybe beats him in the C2 and eventually takes the Continental title by winning that tournament. That is a match I am so mind blown, cannot wait for. Konosuke Takeshita versus Kazuchika Okada is going to be unbelievable. My cat is playing with a very loud toy behind me, so if you're hearing that, I don't know if you're hearing that, but if you are, my cat, Cork, is being very obnoxious with the toy right now. He's in a sunbeam. He's absolutely fucking adorable. So I can't be mad at you, buddy. Just play away, buddy. But yes, Kazuchika Okada, I believe, will fight Konosuke Takeshita, Orange Cassidy, and Mark Briscoe in a four-way match to determine the Continental Champion. And I believe Kazuchika Okada will emerge from this match victorious, and that will somehow get us closer to a Konosuke Takeshita versus Kazuchika Okada proper feud one-on-one. What a card they have lined up. If I were to guess, I do believe Hook and Roderick Strong could possibly be on the 0 hour. They did tease a match. Hook told Roderick Strong he was ready anytime, anywhere. And Strong kind of teased hey, it's going to be on my terms. I'll let you know when we're gonna fight. But it certainly appears that Hook and Roderick Strong are on some kind of course to fight each other, and I think that might happen at the pay-per-view on the pre-show. So those are my picks. One more time to go over for the pay-per-view. I do believe we will see Hangman beat Swerve in the Lights Out Cage match. I think Bryan Danielson's going to retain his AEW World title over the scapegoat Jack Perry. I think Mercedes Moné is going to beat Hikaru Shida with the emergence of yet more muscle. Either Megan Payne, perhaps Robin Renegade, or both the Renegade twins. I think Will Ospreay is going to retain the international title over Pac. I believe Chris Statlander is going to beat Willow Nightingale in a Chicago street fight. I think Daniel Garcia is going to beat MJF in a career-making match. I think the Young Bucks are going to beat Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta. And I believe Kazuchika Okada will retain his title over Konosuke Takeshita. Orange Cassidy, Mark Briscoe. Whew. What a fucking card. It's going to be absolutely stunning. We know there's at least going to be some 0 hour matches announced. There may be another match or two announced for the main card. Unbelievable stuff. AEW with that show closing angle this week. There are still, some people who say that AEW was at its creative height in 2021, and I'm sorry. I don't think those people are watching the current day product. AEW currently is better than it's ever been, and I don't think it's even remotely close. Okay, I don't think 2021 can even touch what they're doing right now. It is absolutely thrilling each and every week. From Revolution to All Out, AEW's basically been on a perfect pay-per-view run. They've never really produced a lot of bad pay-per-views, but I thought last year was the first time where they had two that I felt were a bit lackluster. I thought World's End in total was not great. I thought Full Gear had a very disappointing main event, not because of the efforts of the competitors, MJF and Jay White. I just felt the story lagged and wasn't well told, and that was not their fault. And I felt Double or Nothing last year was particularly underwhelming. I just didn't think it was very good by AEW standards. And there has been nothing like that this year. Every single show has a lot of thought put into it and a lot of forethought. I think creatively, AEW is at the absolute peak of their powers right now. I still think it's possible that Mariah May gets some in-ring promo time and we might see the glorious return of Toni Storm. I think it's possible you see something between Jamie Hayter and Saraya. I think so. I still think there's possibilities there. We'll see. But what are your thoughts? What do you think's going to happen? What are your predictions? I would love to know. Hit us up on social media, on Instagram, on Threads, or leave a comment for us on YouTube or the podcast platform of your choice. The other thing I would encourage you to do is give us a 5-star rating on Spotify, on iTunes. You guys have been so generous. There's a lot of 5-star reviews there already. We super appreciate that. This is our 19th episode, and I cannot tell you how proud I am of this community, how proud I am of my co-host, Joshi G. Can't wait to talk to her all about it next week. We will be back in full force, but until then, I'm Blade Daly. This has been Sit Down, Shut Up, Mark Out, a pro wrestling podcast about pro wrestling. Have a great all-out weekend. Enjoy Collision. Enjoy Calampage, which is what we're getting this Friday. Enjoy All Out. Till then, pro wrestling forever. Get the hell out of here, Jack Payne!